Say goodbye to the grocery store. Hello to HelloFresh. Healthy ingredients, easy to follow recipes. Shipped to your door, $30 off your first box. HelloFresh.com/Colin. By the way, the outspoken Brian Cox. Brian Cox is going to get an NFL head coaching job here pretty soon. Brian Cox was an outspoken player and is now widely respected by coaches who I trust in this league. He played with the Patriots or a coach with the Patriots, knows Belichick well. He'll give you his thoughts on what I believe is happening, and I'm absolutely shocked, is that coaches now see Belichick as sort of this all-time legend. So did players for years. But players, star players now are getting outspoken, going to social media. They see Bill as vulnerable, and they're willing to say what they think. And it's really surprising. So Brian Cox, former NFL linebacker, and a great one, was a Super Bowl player, a multiple-time Pro Bowler, All-Pro. He'll be joining us. So Dez Bryant got cut, and Dez Bryant, again, projecting everybody else's fault. This is what's happening, not me. Don't want to look in a mirror. Here's Dez Bryant after the cut.
I believe that. Garrett guys, I would say that.
So you're saying Garrett guys worked against you?
I believe that. I truly believe it. And
do you want to name who Garrett guys are?
I won't put no names out, but they know. And I want them to know on this air that, I know. I'll shoot them a text message and let them know.
All right. We do a game on this show, and we call it the blind resume test. And what we do is we put stats up. And so there's no emotion. You don't know who these players are. So let's do the blind resume since 2015. This is when Dez signed his huge contract. It's a blind resume test. So there's no emotion here. So the guy on the left and the guy on the right have played almost the same number of games. These are virtually the same player, same number of touchdowns, except the player on the right is really, really inexpensive. He's cost $10 million. The guy on the left has cost $45 million. So blind resumes, here we go. Who is it? Dez Bryant's the guy on the left. And Rashad Matthews, Titans, formerly of Dolphins, is the guy on the right. So this is about a league that has a salary cap. And at some point, that guy on the left is not significantly more productive than the guy on the right, and the guy on the right's costing you $10 million. And I don't know what Matthews is in terms of a salary cap hit, but I know Dez was $16.5 million. That is a big salary. You got to be Julio Jones. You got to be Antonio Brown. I mean, you got to be special. For a perimeter player to be a $17 million cap hit, you got to be special. And he's just not anymore. And I'll say this, I really believe the further away that Jerry Jones has gotten from controlling the Cowboys and the more that Stephen Jones has a say-so on personnel, I think they're not only adding good pieces, they're getting rid of the right pieces. So for me, this made sense. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Heard on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So, Colin, you talked about LeBron's loss in the first round.
Yes.
How everyone needs to just slow down a little bit. They're going to be fine. However, Victor Oladipo, who really won that game for the Pacers, he says the Pacers truly believe they can beat the Cavs in the series. Here's what he said after the game.
We believe that we can win. We came into this game playing with a mentality that we were going to attack on both ends of the floor and been playing like we've been playing all year. And we did a great job of that. But it's like I said, it's only one game. It's only game one, so got to get ready for game two.
A lot of people say that in the middle of a series against LeBron. You get a lot of that. We think we can, and we...
Well, they're now 4-1 against the Cavs this season.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. At what point would you start thinking, oh, wow, they could lose? Is it 2-0, 2-1?
No, when it becomes 4-0 Pacers, I'm all on board. That's when I'll really jump on the Pacers bandwagon. Listen, here's the thing. You and I basically come to work every day. And I think, John, you, I, and Greg, we come to work every day with one thing. We want sports to be interesting. So LeBron going 12-0 through the East is not interesting. Now, it makes me right, but I'd rather be interesting and occasionally wrong. So Indiana making this a real series is good for our business because if, let's say, for instance, the Cavs won, let's just say, the Cavs won by 16 yesterday. What in the world would I have to say? I think fans sometimes think I'm always rooting for exactly what I say to happen. No, by the way, especially when you're out of football. You're looking for stories that are interesting. The Patriots losing that Super Bowl in the way in which they did has given me hours of things that are interesting to talk about. So here's the thing I'll throw to you, John. What if LeBron gets beat in the first round? Doesn't it? Now, everybody will cheer on the internet.
Pacers, Raptors, let's do it.
But let me just say, doesn't it elevate the chances that LeBron leaves Cleveland? Because you can't leave this roster.
Sure.
If LeBron gets smoked in round one, I mean, go ahead and cheer everybody, but it pretty much guarantees he's going to Houston, Philly, or the Lakers, and those are younger, better franchises potentially going forward.
So you're saying last night you were pulling for the Timberwolves to beat the Rockets a little, just for storyline purposes.
No. I was looking for intro. I don't want it last year. Okay, last year the Cavs went 12-1 in the East, and what did the Warriors do?
12-0.
12-0. That was not fun for us. We'd come in every day, and the series were over by game 2.
Yeah. So there's another NFL head coach who a lot of people think could draft a successor at quarterback. That would be the Saints and Sean Payton. Drew Brees is 39. The problem is Payton is not really big on this year's class of quarterbacks. He said this to Peter King, quote, "I don't see luck in this draft, and I don't see Carson Wentz. I'd feel a little bit uneasy if I were at the top of this draft and I decided I had to have a quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if only one of these guys is left standing in 4 or 5 years, and if so, I guess it would be Sam Darnold."
That's how I believe.
So you agree that there's probably only one guy?
I think this class is way overstated. Now, I like Josh Rosen, but my issue is durability. But if you told me, if you lined them, I've always told you, Baker's closer to Case Keenum than Drew Brees. Darnold's the only guy I think's a star. I think Rosen could be, but he would have to inherit a good offensive line and a coach that works with him, because I have real durability concerns. He was hurt a lot in college, and if you're Sam Bradford, if you're hurt in college, we have a history here. You're going to get banged up in the much tougher NFL.
It sounds like an outlandish statement, but really that's usually what happens.
Exactly.
It's usually one or two guys can play. So that's basically just an average quarterback class, let alone a bad one.
Yeah, I think Darnold's the guy.
Speaking of quarterbacks, this is one of my favorite stories because I thought it was just a rumor. According to Adam Schefter, who makes it more legitimate, he said he would not be surprised if the Browns selected quarterbacks with their first and fourth picks in this year's draft.
I don't like it. First of all, if you draft a young quarterback, you want him to get all the reps, I would think. I don't want Sam Darnold splitting reps. I want to give this young kid all the support I can give him. He's a 22-year-old young man. I want him to come in. I want him to get every rep. I want to go into the film room and just look at that young man and say, so let's say you do this. Lamar Jackson, according to stories, like they're saying that Lamar Jackson would probably come into the league, maybe need a year of growth. So now you're going to cut Lamar Jackson, if he's the fourth pick, you're going to cut his reps in half?
Yeah, this was floated a couple months ago, and it was based on the premise of half the guys bust. So why not take 2?
Yeah, way, if you just take out the Browns bust, that goes to that number gets reduced.
But you're also guaranteeing that one of your 2 picks will be a bust because you can't practice like that. You can't do that. John Goulet with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
He was a great defensive player, and now he is a great defensive coach. Some of my coaching friends, like Dave Wannstedt, speak very highly of Brian Cox, and he is now joining us, I think, for the first time in the Herd. He was on that defensive coaching staff with Atlanta that gave Brady fits for 3 hours, but maybe not the last 40 minutes of that game. By the way, as a coach in that Super Bowl, you had it all figured out. For 2 hours and 40 minutes, Brian, you had it figured out. As a defensive coach, as Tom started surgically, what was going through your mind?
Here we go again. That was it. Unfortunately, we didn't play the 60 minutes. And, the thing that I look back on is what could I have done differently? In my opinion, what I could have done differently was play some more defensive linemen earlier in the game to keep my guys fresher. And unfortunately, hindsight's 20/20. I didn't know that we'd play 93 plays. I'm looking at, Super Bowl records of how we hit him 11 times in the first half and sacked him 5 times and hit him 18 times. Well, you'd like that number to be 20 and 6 sacks, but unfortunately we didn't get it done.
Brian, you were one of the first players who was outspoken, who was fiery. You were a great player. But in the history of the NFL, it's a coaches' league, it's a GM's league, players their thing. And you were outspoken, and you pushed back to the system, and you had an opinion. And so it's so interesting to me. I didn't know if you wanted to be a coach. You have now segued nicely into coaching. You're the adult in the room. You're the responsible guy. You have to talk to these young players. So when you get young players and they share your personality and they're outspoken, how do you handle them?
Well, that's the good thing. I had Joe Green to handle me, and whenever I would get in trouble in Miami, Don Shula would send Joe Green to my house, and he'd come over with steaks and cigars, and we'd sit outside and we'd converse. And so to me, the situation was, because I was what you would call problematic. For me, my experiences talking to younger players oftentimes can get them through a tough patch.
Right.
And so I've been able to use it from the inside out. And since I've been fired from the Super Bowl, I'm still using it because I'm working with college-age players who are getting ready for the draft, and been able to talk to, my son who just completed his rookie year in Carolina. So I've had the opportunity to do it. My work is still going. You can fire me from the job, but you can't stop my work, and football has been my work and my passion.
Brian Cox joining us, former great NFL linebacker, now a coach. Okay, so you were in New England.
Right.
And Danny Amendola came out this weekend, and he said basically, listen, Bill can be an a-hole, but he's great. I'm just quoting him. That's not my quote. That's what he said. Okay, I want you to kind of move into how difficult is Belichick to play for and be around?
He's not. He's not difficult. I think the people talk about he takes the fun out. That's not the case at all. In my time with Bill Belichick as head coach, when you're working, you're working. When you're not working, you can have as much fun as anybody. And he is a bit of an a-hole because, you don't know much about him away from the field, away from the office, but the guy can get you prepared. He understands the game from every angle, and he's going to make you successful. So he changed what people thought about me in the league, so I'm forever grateful and in debt to him. And the guy's a genius. You can't take anything away. He's one of the old school coaches still remaining in football, and a lot of people don't see it that way, but he goes against the trend. So everybody wants big receivers now. He gets little receivers. Everybody wants first-round offensive linemen. He's drafting them in the 6th round, and they're playing 8 and 10 years. He can take guys, and the best thing about him, he identifies traits that you have in your ability, and he only asks you to do what you're good at.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he's good.
And you found a lot of coaches didn't do that.
A lot of coaches don't do that. A lot of coaches want you to fit their system because they don't know other ways to get to you and be successful.
Bill just said, Brian, this is what you do.
Right.
This is what we're going to have you do.
Right. And you look at the Super Bowl with Malcolm Butler, for instance. I can remember playing for him in 2001 and him coming to me on Monday and saying, "You're not playing this week." And I'm having a fit. Why am I not playing? And he said, "Name which running back you can cover man to man or which tight end you can cover." I said, "None." He said, "That's my point."
And you were ticked. And you were ticked.
Yeah, I accepted it. But the critical thing about it is he told me on Monday. He gave me time to prepare so that when Sunday came, I wasn't disappointed and wasn't a nuisance to the team.
Now, Malcolm Butler reportedly got word a little later. It does look like, Brian, in the last 2 months, that Brady's gone to his social media. Gronk's missing camp. Amendola calls him out. Gronk calls him out on social media. Do you have a sense that Bill is a little vulnerable? Players now make more than they've ever made. They get more guaranteed money. They have social media. That maybe Bill now is vulnerable to the modern player.
No, absolutely not. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. And the biggest thing to me is this. Bill's point is sometimes you have to have a public hanging. And if Gronk is the guy that you want to hang now, all the other players get in place.
Yeah.
And so it's a situation, if he was not content, the only organization he holds in as high esteem as he holds the Patriots is the Giants, he would have jumped ship and went to the Giants.
Because he could have.
Because he could have. So to me, that says that he's still in control. And he's always said in conversations that we've had is, I'd give up a little money for more control. As long as I got the control, I can make sure things go the way I want it.
But he had to get rid of Garoppolo.
He didn't have to. I don't believe that.
You don't believe it?
No. Well, look at this. He made a trade because if he don't trade Garoppolo at that time, at the end of the year, Garoppolo's a free agent and he can't get anything for him. So you trade him to San Francisco. Many people said he could have got more from Cleveland, but he wanted to do right by the player. Trade him to a place where he can go and have success. I get something in return.
Brian Cox joining us, former great player and a coach. Okay, 2 football questions. The Cowboys cut Des Bryant. Now, as a former player, you may bristle at my opinion, which is he's really expensive. He's no longer that productive. This is a no-brainer. I'd have gotten rid of Des. You buy that?
I absolutely agree with that. You know, the thing that I look at was the fact that they didn't even offer him a pay reduction.
That's the story.
Which means that they're saying, we don't want you at any cost. We don't want you around here. And so that speaks to stunting the growth of Dak. It speaks to being a malcontent. And although everybody say how much they loved him, if they loved him, they would ask him to take a pay cut because they wanted him to remain there.
Sometimes teams say things publicly. They play nice. Dallas played nice.
Well, in Parcells' terms, it would be, don't tell me you love me, show me.
Okay, the Rams. Let's talk Rams for a second. Okay, Ndamukong Suh. I like him, but I have people I trust have told me, comes in shape, ready to play, kind of does his own thing. Could be a little diva. Marcus Peters, college coach, said out of here. Andy Reid, out of here. Aqib Talib I love, but Aqib's had some back stuff. So I look at the Rams, and they're adding a lot of guys who have had obstacles, speed bumps, baggage, diva, blah, blah, blah. How many can you add to a locker room? Do you think it's a problem?
No, and I'll tell you why. And I want to come back to a point about Marcus Peters in a second, but remind me of that point.
I will.
But the thing that I would say is a young coach who's basically an offensive coordinator.
He is, yeah. Sean McVay.
He hired Wade Phillips for a reason. Wade had to leave in Denver, so he understands his personality.
Yeah.
I was coaching in Tampa when he was down there. He's fine. I mean, he's going to tell you the way it is. He's going to talk straight up. He's a man's man.
Yeah.
No issue.
Aqib Talib, no problem.
No problem. He'll tell you, man, I ain't doing that. Okay? He's going to stand on it. If he tell you he's not doing it, he's not doing it. But it has to be something that's asking him to do something out of character that he's not good at. So Wade must be comfortable with that decision. Sue comes in, and he's been a player that's done everything he's supposed to. He plays hard-nosed. If you're on his team, you love him. If you oppose him, you don't like him so much, he'll do well. He'll make Aaron Donald really good, and Aaron Donald's going to get paid. If I'm Aaron Donald, I don't sign a contract with the L.A. Rams right now. At no point. You didn't want to pay me before. You lost your chance. I'm gone.
Okay, let's go to the Marcus Peters. You wanted me to remind you of that.
Well, the thing that I'll take about Marcus Peters, when you talk about malcontents, okay, the college thing.
Yeah.
It's how you coach a guy. And because I have a history of being a guy that everybody wanted to put the bad guy on.
Yeah, you were in a box. You were the bad guy.
Right. If you call Don Shula, if you call Bill Parcells, if you call Bill Belichick, they love me. If you call Dave Wannstedt, love me. I was a captain of every one of those teams. Not because I was making anybody afraid of me, but I was able to play both sides. I was able to be stern enough in the locker room with the players, and I was able to go challenge the management. With Marcus Peters, his college coach, whatever he did, fine. Okay? Issue. You see him get in trouble in
Kansas
City and get into an argument and get suspended. You see Tom Brady get into it with his coach and cuss Josh McDaniels out, and everybody says he's a competitor. So why are we branding Marcus Peters as a bad guy or as a guy that's a bit of a malcontent, and we don't do it to Tom Brady?
Let me ask you this. Have you ever played with a guy, though, that was a malcontent, that you can't coach? I mean, some guys, Brian, are tough to coach.
No, it's the character. It's what they stand for. Now, for me, you can't tell me anything. I'm not just going to follow you because you're in a position of leadership.
Yeah.
If I don't trust you and believe you, you got a problem with me. Because when you tell me to do something, I don't respect what you say because I know you're full of crap.
Right.
Now,
by the way, you're not talking about me directly.
No,
you
no.
like me, I hope, because that would be kind of intimidating.
I'm saying from a coach's standpoint, and I think that's Marcus Peters. Unfortunately for me, I was a late bloomer. It took me a while to understand, but I was always a team guy, and I was always for the team. Nobody ever tell you that I wasn't. But it took me up until recently to realize what I was mad about for all those years. And so when you become more self-aware, when you start to understand what a quality of life is, you do better. Somebody needs to just get to Marcus Peters and say, okay, here's how it's going to affect you 10, 15 years down the road. Because unfortunately, when people talk to me, they bring up all the bad stuff.
By the way, what may I ask? What did you need to figure out?
Well, I was wanting my dad to tell me that he loved me and was proud of me. But unfortunately, he died after my rookie year in pro ball. And growing up, I always wanted him to come and see me play, and he wasn't coming to see me play. And I think I became angry because I felt like, one, you wasn't taking anything from me, and two, I wanted to take the biggest trophy home to show my dad, look at what I got, so he could say he was proud of me. And when that never came, I just realized going through therapy now that was one of my issues.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with Marcus. He's afraid of something. And instead of criticizing him, we need to be trying to figure out how can we make it better? How can we get you to come to a place where you understand I'm not against you, I'm trying to help you, I'm with you. And I think if we do that, then you get a better player. But my point is still the same. Tom Brady did the same thing to his coaching because he started a press conference and said, I'm sorry. Everybody forgave it. It's okay. He's a competitor. But when Marcus Peters does it, he's a malcontent. Why is that? Is it the position or is it a white-black thing? What it is something to it. And it was the same thing. I love Tom Brady, so I'm not ragging on him, my former teammate. It was the same thing with me and Dan Marino. Dan would cuss out somebody, and he was a fiery competitor. Brian Cox is an animal. And every time someone writes a story about me to this day, it brings up my past. But yet, if you read an article about Dan Marino or Tom Brady, it don't bring up those things. So how is that?
Yeah.
And so I just, I'm a new creature, and I'm trying to self-discovery. I'm on this self-discovery journey right now.
That's great.
And it's good, but it's scary because it makes you look at yourself and your selfishness and some of the shortcomings you have.
Yeah. Boy, you were great today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Brian Cox, self-discovery. Goulet, you could do some self-discovery. I like what I'm hearing from Brian. Nobody needs therapy more than Goulet. Get him in that class and look at himself. Good seeing you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, we got some exciting news. Simply Safe is a home security company. Now, this was invented by a bunch of college kids who got robbed. They couldn't afford a security company, so they wired stuff up, true story, and they went public with it, and it's been a huge hit. Well, now they've made it even better. They put in safeguards because hammers, somebody puts a bat to your security, they try to cut the siren. It doesn't matter with the new and improved Simply Safe. It's been redesigned. It is practically now invisible to somebody who would break into your home, and you still get the fair and honest price of $14.99 a month. And there is no contract. There's no hidden fees here. It's up front. Protect your home and protect your family today. Visit SimplySafeColin.com. SimplySafeColin, COLIN.com. Just releasing their new brand and new home security system. The all-new Simply Safe.